The multiplier effect is essentially a measure of how much autonomous expenditures like changes in consumption, investment, or government spending will affect GDP. So let's write out a little equation just so we can visualize it. So the multiplier is essentially equal to the ratio of change in GDP over change in one of the categories of GDP. So let's say change in consumption, investment, government spending, anything that was a shock to one of these categories alone, not induced from GDP. So for example, let's say that the market is really good, our economy is very strong, and people are willing to invest more. So that's not necessarily induced from GDP, right? So we're going to invest, say, 10 billion more in the economy. So let's say that from this 10 billion, we get an increase in GDP of 20 billion. Right, so what that shows us would be we have a multiplier of 2. Right, so for every 1 unit of each of these categories that we increase, we get a doubling effect of GDP. Right, so this is good when we're increasing these categories, but it's bad when we're decreasing them. So in a recession, for example. Right, so let's say that we have a multiplier of 1 versus a multiplier of 5. So let's say that in a recession, we decrease consumption by 10 billion. Same thing, right? And let's say that our multiplier is 1. So we would decrease GDP then by the same amount, right? We would decrease it by 10 billion. But let's say that our multiplier was 5. So a larger multiplier, usually good, right? So that means that we would have to decrease GDP by 50 billion, right? So a larger multiplier can be good in times of economic positive times, right? But in recessions, they can be bad because they can dig us in larger holes and make it longer for us to bounce back, right? Because decreasing GDP by 50 billion is a lot worse than 10 billion.